Hey, friends, we are fearless. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Frances Young, and we are here on another episode today of This Fearless Life. I am popping Simren's cherry on getting back into the podcast world right now. She started a podcast with another friend of hers a couple years ago, but here we are to have her as a guest today. Welcome, Simren.
Thanks, Francis. I know I was saying to you before we hit record, I was literally dusting off the mic. So it's good to be back, though. Hopefully, I'm not too rusty. I'll do my best.
You're gonna be just fine. So I have Simran with me today, and Simran, I actually remember the first time I met you. We were out for Thai food with a bunch of other beautiful women. We got connected through longtime client and friend, and then all of a sudden we ended up in each other's world. We've done lots of work with each other on our businesses, and I can't wait to hear about your new slash relaunch of your own consulting business. Today, we're also really going to focus on health, wellness, our journeys, and just where you are at in life, and then relating
Mm.
it to your human design. Now, I also did Simran's human design reading like over a year ago. I know we
Yeah.
haven't done specifics in a while, so I'm excited to say some specifics in a little bit that after Simran will tell us her current journey of some things that she has been through, that her body is in air quotes back on track and or always have already been telling her to do the thing in the way that she needs to live life. So, first, Simran, what has been your journey with your health in the past 2 years as a whole? Because I'm excited for you to share so that maybe somebody who has experienced or currently experiencing can listen to a story that is similar.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, thanks for having me, Francis. I know it's been a year since we did the chart review, and I can't believe it's flown by. But as you mentioned, I've had a lot of other health priorities for me to focus on. I'll try and keep it succinct, but I'm an open book now with my health. I have stage 4 endometriosis. I was first diagnosed at the age of 25, and that was the first time I'd ever even heard the word. For those that are unfamiliar, it's a chronic disease where lesions that are similar to the lining of your uterus grow outside of the uterus, and they can appear on any organ in the body, and it can be an extremely debilitating progressive disease. It's a top 20 pain condition in the world and affects about 1 in 10 women. And that's a conservative estimate. Most people are thinking it's even more than 10% of the population. And yet, there's not a ton of understanding. I can tell you at 25, I'd never even heard the word endometriosis before. That's when I had my first surgery. In August of last year, I had my second surgery. If we take the clock back 2 years, I was working at an executive level on a big corporation, big multinational. My health was starting to really suffer. I was in pain on a daily basis. I was having a lot of digestive issues. I couldn't keep food down. I was struggling a lot with fatigue. I couldn't sleep. The list of symptoms goes on, and my periods had become extremely unmanageable. They'd been unmanageable my whole life since 13. For some reason, at this point in time, everything was sort of hitting an unfortunate turning point, and I decided to take a leave of absence from work and put all of my energy into my health. I've been on pretty much every medication and birth control under the sun. They didn't work for me. Everyone's experience is different. Unfortunately, with endo, there really isn't a great medication that's fit for purpose, and it's because we still don't know what causes the disease. I did every natural based, every medication based treatment you could imagine. I worked with a lot of different specialists, both from in a medical profession sense as well as naturopaths, dietitians, just individuals that had done a lot of education in the space of endo and made a lot of headway, but ultimately the right decision for me was to go and have surgery last year. And it's a surgery where they excise the lesions from your pelvis and anywhere else that the disease appears. I also made the decision to have a hysterectomy at the time because it was thought I had a second disease, adenomyosis. Ultimately, it was a super difficult decision for me to get to that point, but it was the right decision for me. And I'll always emphasize that everyone's journey with endo or any chronic illness is very much their own. Now I'm about 8 months post-op, And it's probably been the hardest thing I've ever done and might ever do is, recovering and, like you alluded to, getting back in tune with my body and my mind. A large part of that journey was leaving my corporate job, putting my health first, continuing to actively put my health first in ways that make sense for me, and starting my own business. I tried to not bite off too much more that I could chew, and yet I still ended doing it. So that already gives you, the listeners, a good window into my personality and how I try and attack things. That's my endo journey in a nutshell.
Amazing. Sorry to be like at the end of your story there, but I was saying that Simren don't take no shit. And also very informative of what we'll get into about her design as well is that I'm just going to conquer everything because I know that I can as fast as I want,
Yeah.
fast as I personally want to, let alone on anybody else's speed. My mother
Yeah.
endometriosis. I know, I think the first time I ever heard the word, I was maybe 12. Like, I actually legitimately forget. I do know and remember the time that she very first was reading about information on it out of a book in the farmhouse that I grew up in. So that means pre 15 for me of
Yeah.
thinking like time of life and how long that I've known about
Yeah.
it. You summarized it beautifully, and I just learned a little bit more about endometriosis myself. Sure,
Yeah.
all of this has come from as well with where your journey has been since you've been 25 of the relearning and kind of being like, so when people ask you, so what is endometriosis? You legitimately know, well, this is my
Yeah.
journey, also what it is, including like, how many 1 in 10 women suffer from endometriosis. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. So 10%. It has the misnomer of being a rare condition, but it's not because it's 10% or more of at least the female population. The reality is it gets so severely misunderstood and underfunded because it's, quote, a women's issue. And we're still battling that in 2025. If I can be, even a small voice and advocate, I'm all for it. But yeah, I had to take the rough journey of educating myself and also re-educating myself a number of times over because there's so much misinformation out there, and it's really challenging to navigate life, career, and understanding your body when you have a chronic illness, because there were times where I would have done, quote, anything and I threw the kitchen sink at it just to feel better. And I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I think sort of sitting in that space has been part of what's helped me, I think, wrap my head around and accept where I'm at. But also, yeah, setting my own pace and letting go of stress and an unhealthy work life is really, I think it speaks to my privilege and I acknowledge that, but it also speaks to the really hard decisions we put off making because we think we need to have some sort of status and have some sort of way we present ourselves to the world when really it's only you and your perspective, how you feel about yourself, that matters.
Amen. And that's another reason, literally, Simran summed it up beautifully as to why we have human design right now. It's a system and a science that talks about the genetics of literally what's going on in our body, what is around us, and how to differentiate what is true for us as opposed to what we think we should do from a society, from a family, from what our best friend told us, and how we should post about Kahani consultancy online. It's just like, actually, no,
Yeah.
that's the way that I'm going to post about it today because this is correct for me in this day, in this moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like actually just dive into the human design aspect. Specifically today, I'm going to talk about 3 aspects of Simran's human design that help describe just who she is and how her, let's just say, health as a whole operates for her. And the first thing that I always talk to people about is their energy type. At the end of the day, in human design, there are 5 energy types. And that's just how literally energy and the way that her system on the inside is connected. And then how that system wants to be expressed outwardly, how that energy is just moving her day to day. So Simran is the hybrid energy type. That is the manifesting generator. So we got part generator, part manifester. smush together manifest generator. And
Love
e-
a good smush, you know?
even just the fact that today we are dusting off something that Simren did a little while ago, has some knowledge on, but yet voice sounds awesome. I can tell. I knew she'd be excited to talk about her story and draw something up. Manifesting generators will do something, they'll put it aside maybe for some time, and then they'll bring it back up in their life. Hands down.
No, it's good because you're right. I am that person. I think I like to have the thing that I'm focusing on, but then I'm also very much will have the seven things that I'm focusing on, and that they don't always serve each other in the moment. I'm also, I think, a collector of skills and points of view. And so this is just one of them, and it's always felt nice and natural. And so it's, hey, if anyone asks me to come on and, chat about my shit, I'm here. Well, let's do it.
I feel like manifesting generators, because they have in their energy, in their body, a desire to speak about whatever feels good in the moment, let
Mm,
alone just in general. This is the manifestor piece of their energy. They, as a whole, do love talking about themselves and their journey. I don't think I have currently met a
mm,
generator that I can think of, because I'm really like trying to grasp in my brain different people in this moment off the top of my hand. All of them love talking about themselves in a way that is to pass on knowledge in some form.
right.
Energy type that is very much this giving, this excitedness. And again, this
Yeah.
manifestor piece of them meant to rattle something, meant to change somebody's perspective, because they're here doing life in their own way. And if
Yeah.
they're not out in the open about it, their energy doesn't like it. They want to be like, hey, this is me at a level to which they're comfortable with it at the time. Hey, look at me, but hey, this is me.
Hmm. Oh, I love that. And I resonate with it. I think, to be honest, there was a long time where I didn't know how to speak about my endo. I hadn't found the language or the voice yet. Part of that was time of life. Part of it was, a bit of embarrassment and shame because we don't talk openly as much as we should about women's health issues, especially when they're centered around menstruation. It's still this like quote icky thing when it shouldn't be. I agree with you because when I didn't know what I wanted to say or how to say it, there was still this desire to do so. And so, though it took me a while to get there, now that I'm there and can be open about it, it's also great to see people's responses, whether they knew me and didn't know this part of me or they're just learning me. It's an opportunity to add a voice. And I think it's important too to add that voice that comes from a perspective of I'm just here to share. It's not here to dictate what someone should or shouldn't be doing with their own body. But yeah, maybe someone takes something from it. And if I can do that, then I will feel even more satisfied with any of the other decisions I made around sharing my story. So
And being like, I helped a fellow woman out in
yeah,
way, shape, or form, even if it's just the fact that, yes, you've talked about it and they feel seen,
yeah,
let
yeah,
alone, actually have more knowledge about what to do, where to go.
for
Like,
sure.
in a day and age where I love that you brought up that we still, as a
Yeah,
society, have a hard time talking about female hormones, menstruation,
yeah.
sex in general. Is just, why is this so taboo when this should not be, in order for us to.
It shouldn't be. And it also feels like we're regressing now with what's happening. I won't get too into, I promise I won't go on my social political rant, but it's getting worse.
It is.
And we're regressing and we're losing language and we're losing a sense of identity. As much progress has been made, there's so many women in particular that are suffering with health issues and they can't get good quality care or even basic level quality care. And that shouldn't be the reality. And I think when you're struggling with that on a daily basis, then you can't even get to all the other good stuff we're about to talk to because it's just this block and it's this wall that prevents you from moving through living a life that you want. We should be able to access the care that we need. And it's also taboo, like from a work perspective, it's so hard. Like leaving my job was a really, really fucking hard decision. I battled a lot of guilt months after that and a lot of shame, feeling like I'd failed. And yet I knew I was making the right decision, putting my body and my health first. But we're so overburdened with this expectation of how to be and exist in the world that I don't know, I fell victim to not putting myself first for years. And it only hurt me in the process, right?
Mhm.
And I know many relate to that and understand that and are probably battling that same decision right now because it's not an easy one to make. I spent a couple years leading up to leaving the job where I was consistently knowing that it wasn't right for me or my health. But there was a large part of me that was like, no, it's so closely like knitted into my identity. If I'm not that like successful executive, then who am I? It's a really fucking scary, set of questions to face. And I don't think I have all the answers, but as you kicked off, the podcast, I'm on the journey. I think I'm on the right track now. I'll probably fall off of it a few times if I'm honest, but we're going in a direction.
Going in some direction where I think my
Yeah.
body's telling me. I
Yeah.
actually happened to today because this will lead into one piece of your design that's also super important in your energy, like physically in your body.
Hmm.
That's very interesting that it's literally in the area of your body in which endometriosis happens. Is that what I was writing about today? Is there's always a decision we've got to make on a given day, regardless of the fact of when we get up, what we eat, just those two things, actually. When we go to the gym, when we start work, like these are the other things that we put our identity to what we feel important and that we should do, and all of these things that kind of move our life forwards as a human. But there are going to be days where you don't decide yet and it's still okay. Even if there's this
Mm.
big over lurching decision, whether it's to leave the job because of X, leave the partner because of X, there are these bigger things that we know the rest of our life can't move forwards until we choose
Mm.
one path that is the scariest thing that we'd never think that we would do in our entire life. Our body is still helping us make that decision, but it's
Hmm.
okay at what point that we uh finally step off the cliff. Of how many times I've done that.
Yeah.
Times I know you've done that, Simran. The piece
Yeah.
that both of our bodies, for us actually in our design, is helping us with that is our gut. In human design, that is the sacral center. If anybody happens to be looking at a graph, I have Simran's graph next to me. It's a square that's above the bottom square. The very bottom square on a human design graph is the root, and then above that is the sacral center. It is connected to literally our gut health, our intestines, our stomach as a sacral centered being, as well it's connected to our sex organs. The fact that for yourself of dealing with endometriosis and where that has been, this is going to be a little bit of a divert of a moment before we step back into human design stuff. Your pain, when your discomfort was the most before you had even say your first surgery. So like just pre 25, right at 25 and it's happening. You're like, okay, I actually need to have this surgery now. Did the pain and just discomfort of this part of your body feel like you couldn't make any decision ever? Like it was hard to decide what was to eat. It was hard to decide where to go on vacation or who to be with. Did it feel like it was affecting your ease in decision making as a whole?
It's hard to go back that far. I think probably because it starts to become all consuming. And so it does track that, when something is clouding so much of your life, then other parts of your life start to suffer. I can imagine that that was true. Your life becomes smaller is like the easiest way for me to describe it because you don't feel like you have the safety or the ability to move through all the pain that you're experiencing. In that same vein, you start to isolate yourself. It can be hard to move out of that sort of dark place into a space where you feel like a whole, capable person that you can trust. So that's something that I've had to rebuild over and over again is my trust in myself and in my body. So yeah, absolutely, I could see how that could be true.
Mm, amazing. The trust in our own, what it is speaking to us in the moment, specifically as also being, in this case, I'll also add in other lingo, what is called a non emotional. We are sacral centered beings because I'm a generator. that will feel very much in the moment if we are given the yes no question of, do I leave my job in order to look after my health? There's an immediate yeah, but this other cloud of my shoulds, my identity, what I have felt at this point up into my life, all of these other questions that come up. I operate the same way, and it's not easy. And it does, we build that trust at every point of our life. We are redoing it every day. And of to, in this moment, what feels appropriate to say, I'm so proud of your journey for you. To one,
Thank you.
welcome, be looking after yourself, to be here in no more pain, and to be a shining light for others that may be in a similar position.
Thanks, Francis. That's so sweet.
Just like I was like, I have to say I'm proud of you, and naturally. So, few other things to go into
Mhm.
aspects of Simren's design that say something about her and the way her body is trying to guide her through life is that we can look at digestion, and we can look at where a person's body feels most comfortable, described by her graph, which, as a side note, to say how to create your graph, you can go to my website. We're not going to go all that moment. But what you do need, folks, is you need your birth information. You need your birthday, the year, the time that you were born. If a parent knows that information, you can retroactively find that as well, and where you were born. Just to say that as a side nugget. Our digestion is kind of got two pieces to it. It says these are the foods that Simran's body loves to have the most, and what stimulates her body to feel good on the inside and energy to go about her day and work out, etc. Then also how she likes to take in information, because our body is constantly digesting stuff. Even as we record, we are digesting the fact that we are on audio and video and all of the things that are around me, let alone how I digest food. There are kind of two parts to this for Simren and for anybody. One is that Simren has an active digestion, and that means that there are these four arrows that are around a graph at the top, and Simren's digestion arrow is pointed to the left. Now, what that means is just that Simren likes consistency. Her body is trying to wake up at a certain time of day that's like overall consistent. It doesn't have to be exactly 6 a.m. on the clock, but if there's, some hour consistency, it's trying to find that. And it also likes food at a consistent time, at a consistent, overallness. And I say this always broad for people because it's not meant to be exact for every single active digestive person. It could be the fact that Simren does like to fast, and that's the way that she is consistent, even though there is a particular window of the day. It's very vast, but there's consistency. And then, as well, with this consistency, is there may be a point where it changes, but it is okay if it changes because of different life stages. Pre-surgery, Simren maybe had a certain consistency, and then post-surgery, Simren maybe has a different type of consistency that's maybe more like feels like it's good right now. Then as well with information, feeling like, you read a certain amount in the day, that you also take in a certain amount of information about what your work is, how many meetings you have. If there is a certain amount of consistency, then your body's like, yep, I have all the energy because there's some flow with how my system is going about its day. So far, does that resonate for the reminder on that you have?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it does. I like consistency, I like structure. And you're right, I like it because I feel my body feels the best when I follow that structure. It has changed. It's changed a lot over the years as my health has sort of ebbed and flowed and wanted to do different things, but also because I've been very experimental and finding what that consistency and structure looks like for me. I tried a lot of things that didn't work, and that was very frustrating because I wanted them to work. I was recommended them, and experts say, blah, 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 you do your research. And then it starts to have a negative effect on you mentally because you're like, wait, why isn't this working for me? Now I do think I've found a rhythm that is working really well for me and a level of movement that works for me, which I connect very closely to my digestion because that is a support system. And yeah, just to touch on the meetings, one thing I really, really disliked when I was working corporate was just being in Zoom calls or team calls, one after the other, all day long. I know I'm not unique here at all. It's exhausting on a different level. And so now that I get to control that flow, I do feel it just A gives me more control over the day and when I can structure what, but B, like you said, lets me choose what I want to do when a bit more. And then that I find that to be a more energizing or easier day to flow through from a work perspective.
Yeah. Nobody really talks about also this random fact, and then we'll keep going, that
Yeah.
just how tiring Zoom calls are all day in corporate life. I have so
Yeah.
many friends that tell me this that are in corporate life. They're like, I
Yeah.
just don't want to be on another Zoom call.
And it was born out of necessity, right? During a time where if you had that type of job, you were working from home and there weren't any other options. But then it also spurred a lot of negative output, mental health perspective, even, lots of issues with individuals don't wanting to see themselves on screen for that period of time, body image, even sense of self. And it fosters a different type of dynamic with the people that you're speaking with and trying to like be quote productive with in a work sense. I don't know if it's been necessarily for the best from those perspectives, though it does offer individuals a lot more flexibility. And it's especially if you can, need more opportunity to do quiet work, creative work, etc. But I've never been a fan of the 8-hour day of Zoom meetings. I don't know if anyone has.
I,
So
from an outside perspective, the only time that I had what felt like call after call after call is I happened to
yeah.
online fitness platform slash health insurance platform, which I would go from one PT Zoom to the next PT Zoom to the next PT Zoom. And you're still outputting a certain amount of movement. You're still looking at a screen. So,
Yeah.
like sitting there
Yeah.
and not even moving, that would be like a lot for me, let alone a lot,
Yeah.
being on a Zoom. Okay. I had to bring that up because every
Yeah.
single person in corporate life brings this up to me. And I'm like, okay, then there's something needs to change with that. But that's another problem to solve on
Yeah,
another.
yeah, that's a whole other podcast topic. I have a lot of deeply set perspectives. I will not get on my
Right.
soapbox here.
And other piece of Simran's digestion that this is, I'm excited to put also the spin of talking about gut in a sacral being as a manifesting generator is that Simran has what is called open taste digestion. It's actually the opposite to mine, even though there are some similar links. It is an older style of digestion. And what that means is that there are going to be things, especially with the active arrow going on as well, that Simran loves, that Simran has to have. Sorry. That is like, this is a thing that makes my gut feel amazing. It makes me excited thinking about it. I dream about it at night to have it the next day because our system likes, again, a certain amount of consistency, that left arrow. And sacral beings really, they're obsessed with the way of seeing their food and being like, yes, this is it, or thinking about it and imagining it. So when there are some things that are consistent in your diet, maybe from even still say when you were a kid, that nostalgically comes up and you're like, yes, I'm going to go have this thing, or, this thing that you got into post surgery as your new thing that you're like, yes, this is the thing, is very much the way that your system is trying to tell you
I get lots of cravings, so there's might be that.
that, hey, cravings is related to it as well for how I see it as a generator and dealing with gut as well.
Yeah.
And what our body is used to as a whole, our conditioning for what we eat, just humans in
Yeah.
general. What is fed to us, what is normal, what we grew up with, what is normal in air quotes, what we grew up with then becomes what our body is used to. And when we break out of it,
Yeah.
our system goes, hang on, I do or I don't like this, and can either put us into sickness, It will have disease with what we are putting into it, or it'll thrive, like depending on what it is that you have chosen or to put yourself. And your system likes to try the new things though. It like this open word. If you're on vacation and you try a new piece of fruit, oh my God, this new piece of fruit. Or if you're reading about endometriosis and you try this thing after this one thing didn't work, oh, this is the thing that is helping my gut health now, as opposed
Hmm.
this other task was not the thing that's helping me. Then there's a lot of trial and error with that as well. The gut needs trial and error and needs to see the food. I don't like that we, on some menus, depending, you don't have pictures anymore, or they're just the menu
Hmm.
when you QR scan it post COVID. I like to tangibly hang on to something, see what I'm going to have, and does that resonate with what my brain wants and what my gut wants, actually, as
Yeah.
what my
I
brain.
almost always look at the restaurant's website if I've never been there before I go.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't help. I want to read the menu, but yeah, or if you go on Google and you see the reviews and pictures other people have left, and if it doesn't look appetizing in the picture, which may not actually be a reflection on how good the quality of the food is, I'm a little bit already like I don't want to go. I've already checked out of it being a good experience, and but it's like that's it is true. We do eat with our eyes. It doesn't mean everything has to look a certain way, but there's I don't know, meet an expectation that I have. But there's also the nostalgia piece you just mentioned. There's like foods from my childhood. It doesn't matter what they look like, I'm going to eat them because they were great then and they're still great to me now. And they might not be pretty, but I like them. They're happening.
But they're the best thing you've ever eaten. In our gut, it
Yeah.
likes consistency. There are other types of digestion where the consistency, and again, you having this active arrow, this left
Hmm.
arrow, the of what time you are eating and when you were having that nostalgia thing. I'm gonna do some reading on just what it means to have your taste buds can instantly recognize if a food is good for you and add it into your routine. So the same goes for looking at something prior to going to it. If you've never been there before, what our brain is picking up on, what our body is picking up on from those photos is way more intelligent than we give it credit for. It's kind of ridiculous, let alone what we read
Yeah. Wow.
on the internet from other people. This is where the nuance of our body's understanding of life is we have no comprehension this day and age still of what our body is capable of telling us what to
No,
do.
because if I let my brain choose, then I'm probably just gonna have cake all day long, and I shouldn't listen to that part.
And then there's a certain part where our body's like, okay, I've had a certain amount of X, and then it knows
Yeah.
that's not what we're going
Yeah.
to survive on. But one thing I still find that's interesting for this open close mine, so to say the reverse, is that I eat very much the same foods all the time.
Mm.
But if I go on vacation, I'm actually going to try to find the same things all the time. But
Right.
if there's the one random thing, like as a kid, I remember eating olives for the first time and my parents being like, let's try this. And I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. A closed taste digestion will still do the same thing again because it's in front. If it's in front of me, I'm like, okay, then my body is picking up on, yes, this is
Yeah.
something that I want to eat at different times a month. I'll bring this up for the endometriosis moment as well. I notice for me in my cycle when I crave salt and
Mm.
red
Yeah.
in my closed taste digestion. And I bet you other females listening to this can resonate with salt.
Yeah.
And if they happen to have protein from animals when they crave certain protein in comparison to others due to their cycle. When you take a bite of something and you like it, that's when your rotation of what you are having is likely to change. So
Well,
noticing, oh, if I have this new thing,
yeah.
okay if the rotation changes. I know something you were vibing on with me a little while ago is just finding that thing at the end of the night that feels like it takes away a sweet craving or just a snacky craving.
Yeah.
Think you're hungry and being like, I tried this recipe and then this one worked better. And I was re-looked at your digestion today and I was like, oh yeah, open taste.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the new thing when you found the new thing.
Yeah, and it's just it's being open to trying it and knowing, okay, it might not like it, it might not be great. but it might be great for me nutritionally. And I think that's what keeps me very open to trying new things as well, is that it may check a box that I feel like I'm not doing as good of a job, quote unquote, to provide my body the nutrients it needs. But if I don't love it, then I'm like, all right, let's try a different one until, but then I will find certain foods and fixate on them a little bit too. And I'll just be like, no, this is great. I love it. Don't take it away from me. I want it every day until I get sick of it. I do that a little bit too. And then I'll take a break and then eventually I'll come back to it and be like, oh, I forgot this existed. It's so great. I want it all the time again now.
You just did your own personal description of open taste. It's great.
Yeah, that was mine.
A point, and then I'm like, oh yeah, and then something new will pop in, help out your body, and then be like, oh, I forgot this other thing, and get so excited
Yeah.
about it. So then, if we're eating in the way that our body is telling us to, in
Hmm.
a way for Simran, with occasionally having these new things that pop in here or there with open taste, we're also going to somehow end up in environments that make our body also feel fantastic. Just to create an analogy to describe how our body feels in different environments before we talk specifically to what Simran's is I grew up in the country. So I grew up on a dirt road about 30 minutes from a major, like smallish town because I grew up in Muskoka, Ontario. And it literally does actually match my human design environment for myself, which we won't get into in this moment. But we know what it feels like if we go to a city and we're immediately like, oh, I don't know if I was supposed to go there. Or if we go on vacation and you're like, actually, I never want to go to this place again. But as soon as you go somewhere and you're like, I love this place, for whatever reason, your body is picking up on this environment of I need to spend more time here. How do I
Hmm.
do this? This makes me feel good. And we legitimately are told by our design what that place is if we haven't already recognized it. And Simran's is what we call internal markets. It
Okay.
also happens to have a left arrow going on. And this is also important to describe at the same time. Out of those four arrows that surround the top of any graph, when we have a left environment arrow, it means that Simran's body wants to, I'll put it in air quotes, be in control of how she is able to move about her particular environment, when she is able to leave it or re enter a certain place, and also somewhat be able to cultivate who is there in that time as her decision as to how she's interacting with the environment needs to be her choice more than just being open to seeing what comes into the space or being passive about what's happening in her said place. Do you kind of like to be the one that's like, yes, this is where this goes, or this is when I leave, this is when I come back, kind of
Yeah,
attitude?
for the most part. For the most part, yeah.
Because there's a certain amount of, you know, I like to, I'll use an analogy in a second, passivity to how we are in an environment. Like I'm sitting in the couch and somebody walks in, like, yeah, I'm not in control of somebody walking into my door. But there's a difference between that Simran is going to be the one that chooses to take a particular meeting or chooses to enter, or how many people are
Yeah.
in her space at what time, very much likes to be in control of that. Do you also feel that in your environment, Simran, there's a certain amount of,
Yeah.
if you're at home all day, I need to be in this room for a bit, I need to be in this room for a bit kind of vibe?
There's definitely, I think, things that I do to create the right type of energy I'm looking for, whether that's so today all the blinds are up, the window is open, it's a nice day, the air is flowing. I was on the couch working after the gym for a bit. Now I'm at my desk. There is a bit of that, and I'll move a lot throughout the apartment. Later on, I'll definitely throw on some music at some point and have that going in the background. Those are all things that I control that will like feed. And yeah, some days I've just got a blanket on the couch and I don't really want to talk to anyone or be around anyone, and that's just what I needed in that moment. But I think my choicefulness or my choosiness, whichever one you want to pick, has become more direct over the years, especially with the people that I keep company with. I'm way more choiceful about that because I really don't want to. and I'll put it this way, waste my energy, which is, another reason why running my own business makes so much sense for me because it gives me that control in a way that I've never had it before from a work perspective. That's exhilarating and scary at the same time because it feels like I'm stepping into something familiar and unfamiliar simultaneously. So yeah, that a lot of that definitely resonates. And sometimes too, it's about just leaving the house and going for a walk or going to work somewhere else purposefully. Or when I have meetings, whenever I cannot have them on a Zoom call, I will always pick that over a virtual call if I have the choice because I find it stimulating to do that. I find that there's a different part of my personality that starts to show if I can be across the table from someone or sitting next to someone in person than just through a computer screen. So there's a lot of those little choices in my mind that I think that I prefer to make that sort of add to how I feel in a moment or a day.
Amazing. You saying all of that description now perfectly leads into me explaining what internal markets means.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to know. I don't think I've heard this one before. Yeah.
Nope. I'm very, very excited for you to get this information re-put back in front of you. Our environment and specifically energy of then what's in that environment, these people. I love that Simran brought up that she's very choosy on purpose to so that it doesn't feel that she's wasting our energy. A lot of humans need to be reminded of just that concept, myself included. Where we
Mhm.
are and who we surround ourselves with is either adding to what is going on in our
Totally.
body or depleting it.
Sure, for sure.
This we learn over time through human existence of our own like little path, and we relearn every single day. So I love that you brought that up naturally. Now, a
Yeah.
market, we know when we think of just what a market is, it is the exchange of service or the exchange of a good. So, what it means with it being internal is that Simran's body wants to be in a place or interacting in a way that has an exchange of something,
Hmm.
but that Simran is in control of it to an extent, and that it's on a smaller scale as opposed to potentially being. When I think of a market, the very first thing I think of is actually Borough Market in London, England. I have no
Mhm.
idea what, but I just think of a massive hall and everyone everywhere, food, goods, jewel. Like I just think of the biggest thing and the biggest market on the face of the earth. Simran's body is actually looking for something that's a smaller scale and that she has capacity to have some control with. So we're going to do a little bit of a reading on it for Simran so that everyone can also hear.
Cool.
A market is any place where there is an exchange of energy, goods, or services. In very primitive society, the market was where we go to trade, barter, and build relationships and form connections. It's this type of environment, one with that giving and receiving energy, that makes you, Simran, come alive. That's because the markets, as your environment, you're someone who's really meant to participate in the economy or just the economy of life itself, to engage with another human and something that is not you. Being in the presence of commerce, transactions, making deals, buying and selling is an energetic match for you in the gifts that are within your system. Putting yourself out there gives your brain the best chance of turning on the genius of your gifts and to access the purpose of what your body feels good doing. So, to now say internal markets. You're an internal markets person, which means enclosed spaces where you're trading ideas, goods, and services are more fitting than a wide open marketplace. Or there is something called external markets, and that's the opposite. Rather than flea markets or massive expos, you're designed for more intimate settings like boardrooms, offices, co working spaces, even working from home. An internal market is also a Zoom call. This is what some
Hmm.
people markets don't realize sometimes. We are exchanging energy, having connection, and it's an enclosed internet space. In fact, you're meant to be a central piece of these spaces, directly participating mediating, or even initiating the good exchange. So, even say for your business, you are the sole proprietor, you are the person exchanging, you are the person creating the energy, either on a Zoom, either going to go meet somebody in their boardroom, something that is an intimate way of interacting with the environment and what you are providing in the
Mm-hmm.
environment. Think of it this way. While all the other kids are out on the playground, you're the one who sets up the lemonade stand. You bring the potential for commerce to happen. A self generated entrepreneur who can make their own market wherever they go.
It's
Yo.
pretty cool. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Cool, yo. So
Yeah.
having a moment where thinking back to say corporate life, working for a larger company, that's the bigger market. That's
Yeah.
a larger space and entity within it trying to make things flow. Works for a period of time, but then something within that isn't quite right. Simran sets up own business and then, yo, who knows who's going to come to the lemonade stand and interact with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the part that I feel like I'm just really leaning into is that I never know. And it's still really early days. I never really know who is going to be the next connection or interaction. And I'll get to decide whether or not that's something worth pursuing. But the word that really resonated for me was intimate, that intimacy that comes with having those smaller scale interactions where you really get to know the other person, where you build common ground and camaraderie. And those are relationships I've always valued, even when I've been in those, larger markets, larger sort of workspaces. And they're relationships that last for years because I invest in them because I feel like I get something out of them too, beyond business and commerce, but something that feels like a more personal connection. I still value that today. Way more than the potential status of like working at a large company. And I don't know if I would have said that answer to you as articulately a couple of years ago, but I'm definitely like living it and experiencing it now.
I love that for you. And to wrap up the beautifulness of that, to even say something else about your design, it
Mhm.
legitimately says this is that there is also something in human design that will give us what is our energetic design's purpose. How Simran's energy wants to express to make it feel good is essentially to me what purpose is. We're here as humans trying to eat and procreate and survive. That's also purpose. But then there's like what makes us feel good on a day-to-day basis. For Simran, it's intimate connections.
Mhm.
It literally says that in Simran's design as Simran's life purpose to the smallest note and sentence. It actually says in human design that our purpose is called life theme. In
Okay.
this particular place where I'm looking at it, our life themes are written in different ways in different places. Some of them are like from the old literature, some of them are from new people that are coming up. The one that I'm looking at right now says only this short sentence: to master full intimacy in relationships.
Mhm. That's
So,
cool.
right? And those words
Yeah.
naturally came out of your mouth before I even said them. I'm like listening to you being like, this is so perfect. The description of what someone doesn't even realize today that this is important to her, one in her
Yeah.
business, two in her family, how it crosses every
Everywhere. Yeah.
aspect of her life. I love
Yeah.
it. And I won't go
Yeah.
into the numbers and the why behind that, but it says that about you. Cool.
It's accurate. It's 1,000% true. If it's not that, I don't really think I want it anymore. Even if it serves some sort of end, you'll make some decisions if it doesn't check a specific box because you have to. The goal is to get to a point where I only have 100% of those types of connections in my life, and everything else is just like wastage on the side of the road. Sorry for the people that don't get to come along for the ride. You didn't make the cut.
Let them have their own ride. They weren't meant to be
Yeah. You
simple.
could have go build your own ride. I built this one. Okay, I get to choose who takes it.
I get to choose this whole moment before, and I feel like Simran and I will be able to wrap this up in like a nice little nugget of a 3 to 5 minute segment before we sign off on this episode today. Is it something that both Simran and myself are experiencing that we are resonating with in each other and
Yeah.
the way that we're building an intimate relationship as well? Is that we're in a beautiful spot of our lives where we're becoming more comfortable with the idea of where we are right now. That we feel more in tap with our bodies. We feel happy with the connections that we have currently.
Hmm.
Feel that I'm doing things day to day that make me feel good. But yet, we're still in the society and the feelings of, with also both of us resonating on a certain level of having emotional awareness in our 30s. We've trialed and errored some shit. We understand how to make ourselves feel better by even just going for a walk if it's not a great mental health day. But yet, how do we sit in this place of, I'm good with where I'm at, but I am cultivatingly trying to bring in this next chapter, this next manifest that, as a society, both Simmer and I, because we have a certain amount of awareness,
Yeah.
know how to bring in the good shit, but we know we're still here. And nobody
Yeah.
talks about the let's really indulge in the I'm still here moment. Because when we met last week, I said something about just naturally where I was at. I'm like, I'm okay with this. And Simran said back to me, I think I just needed to hear that today.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think what I said back to you too was there's not a lot of luxury in talking about and creating content or what I'm writing about the messy middle. It doesn't feel like it. It's like either you're in manifestation mode and like all of the jewels and the greatness of the universe are going to fall to your feet, or you're at the bottom, and those seem to be the types of stories that will get the most airplay. And yet to get from one to the other, or if you're unfortunate, or even reverse into, hitting your bottom, there's a shit ton of mess that you have to wade through. And I don't think we have a lot of shared language around how to talk about it and be comfortable with it, to your point. Be comfortable with the unanswered questions and not just submit to the blind faith that they will be answered at some point. I don't know. I think you're very keen to say it's about whatever time of life we're in, right? That's going to provide us with set of answers or direction. I feel like I've spent the last 2 years just being in a mess and not really having anyone that I felt like I could talk to that could adequately understand it. That's not their fault. I think that's a social construct problem we have, actually.
Totally. And
Yeah.
being okay, depending what is in your media and in front of your face, there's then been the surgence of showing the mess, but just showing that I'm crying on Instagram, that I'm like, this is the shit that just happened to me. Not necessarily in order to get sympathy, but people were going into the like, okay, so let's have Instagram versus reality moment and actually show the reality of what's actually happening behind this facade that we,
Hmm.
the social media driven society as a whole currently. So we've seen the mess and we see the grade and we're talking about the in between, but the in between conversations are what feel like they're actually, in air quotes, more important than the okay, I finally did it and I worked through the mess, or
Yeah.
in the mess and playing not necessarily just the victim card, but again, to just say that I'm in the mess. But for myself, what I am finding the most transformative at this time of saying that I'm okay with where my transition has been in the past 2 years as well is that I feel like I've reformed identity a few times and probably it'll be a few times more, but like the identity feels more me, more authentic because I'm more figuring out what my body's trying to say to me day to day. And for me to say something about my life purpose, it literally what it says in my design too. I just share whatever I'm feeling that day,
Hmm.
unapologetically to
Yeah.
depending on the audience that I'm sharing with it, I'll go to a certain degree of the intimacy of it. But if I share that thing, then I know that I had a great day. And what I brought up to Simran last week, oh, that was that was what she needed to hear that day, you know? So, my point with bringing this up is that if somebody happens to be listening and, they got to make a decision about their health or their whatever their decision they feel indecisive about, it's okay to sit there for however long you need to be. But
Yeah.
the quote unquote universe, the greater energy that keeps our planet spinning, it's okay to be in the place for more than a year of I'm
Yeah.
okay with this chapter of my life because our lives are freaking long. We got a
Yeah.
lot of time to be here. So some
Yeah.
of them aren't going to be where we win the Oscar every year, the way
Yeah.
that it seems like we're supposed to be with that we can
Yeah.
manifest whatever we want as fast as we want.
Yeah. And all of the chapters are worthwhile stories to have, to share and to not share. You don't just need to share the wins or only feel like you can share a win because you've gone through a treacherous road to get there. It doesn't have to be so binary. And it's okay not to know how to talk about it. It's okay not to know what the right thing is to do. It's okay to throw 1,000 tantrums, which I definitely did the last 2 years, feeling like nothing was going my way. Surrounding yourself with the people that can hold that space for you will be, I think, one of the most important decisions you can make now that might be a bit easier to get you to where you need to go. And it's okay to just be a normal level of messy, whatever that looks like. You don't need to have, and hopefully you don't have a story like mine, and you're just trying to figure it out and be happy. That's also cool too.
Mhm. It can be any matter of the degree of where you consider messy and put together to be for your own life experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Zoom call of life, right? It's sweatpants on the bottom and it's like a nice top makeup done on the top. This it's fine. It's there's a place for all of it, you know?
So manifesting generator say it's okay for this and that at the same time. It is true. Uh, I
It's fine.
it's fine. Simran, thank you so much for being on my podcast today to share your story, for us to put our voices together because I also just think they sound good. And or what I'm also excited to give you that extra confirmation of, yeah, I'm doing the thing with regards to your digestion and environment. And is there anything else that you'd like to say or that feels resonant for yourself today and what we've talked about?
Just my gratitude for you. You're the persistence that you have to do this thing that you love and feel so strongly about, I think is quite rare. And so kudos to you. I'm proud of you for keeping at it and doing this thing. And thank you for letting me add my voice to your story. I really loved it.
One, thank you. I was just taking that in the gratitude of, ah, thanks for also believing in me and my for human design and health combined. But also, it was a great honor to have you speak openly and want to speak openly for your own journey in the hopes of helping others, but also that we just get to connect today and have an intimate moment over Zoom.
Yay. Thanks, Francis.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of this Fearless Life podcast. In the show notes below, you're going to find everything you need to know with regards to getting in contact with me. If this has inspired you to book a reading with me to learn your human design, book a personal training session or stretch therapy session, we can also talk about human design during those sessions. However, you want to work with me, I'm here. All the information, again, is in the show notes. If this episode has a guest, all of their information is also in the show notes. Now, I never like a podcast that has an intro that's like, these are my ads and this is the thing and this is a da da da. And now I did that for my first 3 seasons. And now we're putting it at the end because that just feels a little more me. So, the last but not least, hasta la vista of the day is I'm going to see you soon, honey. You're going to go to my website, www.thefearlessprojectltd.com. And if you don't know your human design energy type, there's going to be a graph on that page. You're going to put in some information. It's some birth info, just so you know. And then you're going to have a graph. It's going to come up and you're going to be like, what the hell is this mumbo jumbo if you've never seen it before? Don't worry. You're going to be fine. Literally the only thing that truly matters out of that graph is that you know your energy type and a couple other nuances. But that's it. All the fancy stuff, at the end of the day, if you didn't know it, it would be fine. Knowing your energy type, strategy, and authority off of that graph that you pull up is where you're going to begin. I specialize in helping you understand your digestion and environment, and also how to work out, how to stretch, how to be you in this crazy life that we are living currently in 2025. So I'm going to see you later, friends, and just remember that you are fearless.